If you touch an American citizen, we will go after you, we'll go after your assets, we'll go after everything. We can keep on going for generations. We cannot allow people to just kidnap and kill Americans wantonly and then say we're going to have a memorandum at the United Nations, essentially an academic institution that... D-A-N-G-E-R-F-I-E-L-D, Dangerfield.
Hello and good morning. Now, I've only had 3 hours, Kip. It probably sounds like it, and you're probably thinking, why am I reacting to a CNBC, what appears to be a stock market program? Now, anyone who does invest will know what last night was like. It was absolute madness. I think Tesla was up something like $30. MicroStrategy was at one point up $40. Palantir shot through the roof. It was madness, but we're not talking about stocks and shares. We're going to be looking at Alex Karp. I like to call him Karpy. He's the boss, the brains really behind Palantir. They are an AI software developer.
Welcome back to Overtime. Palantir and L3Harris announcing a strategic partnership to bring together Palantir's AI and L.
Whoa, how do you talk that fast? That must be like some special skill that if you're on prime time CNBC News, you've got to get as many words in as possible. Listen how far this is on normal speed, people. I haven't sped it up. Check out her words per minute count and her sexy, shiny leather. I wonder what she's got on the bottom half, if anything. Oh, gosh.
L3Harris' hardware to help the military make better decisions, faster, improve communications systems.
There you go. So there's a hint. Help the military. Okay.
Systems and accelerate L3Harris' digital transformation. So joining me right...
I mean, that is an incredible rate of words.
Here at CNBC headquarters on set, Palantir CEO and co-founder Alex Karp and L3Harris Chair and CEO Chris Kubasik. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have you both here.
Good to be here.
All right.
So obviously Karp is the one in the middle of those three. On the left of the two blokes is Buffon gives the game away. You're going to enjoy this, people.
What does inking a partnership with another defense prime enable?
Well, first of all, delighted to be here. Congratulations on the quarter. You know, there's a lot of reasons to deepen our partnership and expand it, but primarily, actually, Chris, you know, he's a real disruptor. He drives innovation inside of his company, and then, quite frankly, he's better networked and understands the DC environment, certainly in a way that, you know, we may never. And so the combination of, and then, you know, what I think our nation needs.
Amazing. He was talking about that other bloke having, you know, he's a great networker. He's a good disruptor in DC. It was all sort of stock talk. And then he just started talking about something else. Well, watch that little transition again, because then he gets on to what he really cares about and what this video is really about.
And so the combination of, and then, you know, what I think our nation needs.
Straight on to our nation. He's straight on to talking about what America needs. Amazing. He's not talking about quarters and earnings and PE ratios. He's talking about what our nation needs.
Is the America's best unifying around where we have a structural advantage, which is the integration of hardware and software. China and Russia are just not as good at software and the integration of both.
It's amazing. He's just gone straight there. I mean, Palantir is a software, L3Harris is the hardware. He's talking about the integration, and he says, in China and Russia, they just don't do it as well as America. This is about protecting America and the ongoing threat from the Reds.
Allows you to produce more lethal technologies. So how do we move from passive defense to we scare our adversaries every day? Obviously, in a way.
I mean, it's incredible. Lethal, he said lethal. You don't get this sort of talk in these sorts of things. It's just not done. How do we scare them every day?
Defense to we scare our adversaries every day. obviously in a way that they can't replicate. And the obvious way you do that is you move to AI-driven targeting with ethical means that's going to require software, with the most disruptive companies in DC, led by a quite inspirational leader. So,
I mean, inspirational would have been fine, but a quite inspirational leader. There's a lot in that.
We want to bring innovation to America commercially. Also, they're a massive commercial company, just purely. One of the things about L3 is that they're one of the things that unifies us is we're not really defense integrators. We're commercial companies that are patriotic.
Wow. Please, I've been watching stock market news for years. You don't hear this sort of stuff. We all know that patriotic is like a dirty word. It shouldn't be. It isn't when it comes from my mouth, and it isn't when it comes from Karp's mouth. But to say that on CNBC on a little segment about Palantir and L3Harris getting together is incredible.
We're not really defense integrators. We're commercial companies that are patriotic. And so how do we get the best patriotic companies to...
I can assure you the boss, Christopher Kubasik of L3Harris, is sitting there now going, oh, come on, Karp, cool it down, mate, please don't.
Produce the most lethal technology in the world for America and not for our adversaries.
Amazing, the most lethal technology. I mean, look, I don't like war. I don't want war. No one wants war. Well, I'm sure there's a few people who do want war, but it's an awful thing. It's humanity, it's least efficient, and it's years and years of pain and suffering.
And how do we get it to the DoD in ways that are cheaper, in ways...
Department of Defense.
That the margins are better, and it's a great partner.
So how do you do that, Chris? And I think about, you're a defense prime on a number of programs, but
yeah, we're not really interested in what Chris has got to say, I'm afraid. Nice bloke. Quite a nice bloke, anyway. But we want to hear Karp. Here we go.
And what we've seen in Ukraine and in other places is the old ways of doing battle with kind of hard, large systems that are not AI driven.
I mean, he's got a point, the idea of tanks and, millions of troops move in and all that's all over, really. Years ago, I said, when I was a kid, I watched Robot Wars. And I remember thinking, why don't governments do this? War has essentially become a battle of who's got the best tech, who's got the best technology. So you could get a big arena, and then China puts their robot in, America puts their robot in, and they fight it out, and whoever wins, they've proven that they've got the best technology, essentially suggesting that were it to come to an invasion or a war in the traditional sense, you'd win. And the irony that, some 30 years later, that's essentially what's happening.
Just cannot survive on the battlefield anymore. The Russians and our peer-to-peer adversaries are using electronic warfare. And so what you're going to have to do is deliver a cheaper, more accurate payload that is the convergence of AI, autonomous systems, and hardware. And that's got to be done then. And then you also have to produce at rates we haven't produced. So how do you get the manufacturing to work better? How do you get the supply chain to work better? How do you bring violence to our enemies?
Now look, I'm not laughing at violence to enemies. I'm laughing at context. I'm laughing at him saying it here. But he's also right. And we need to be talking like this. All this politeness and tactful discussion of, commercial, the commercial war machine. Let's just be honest about it, and we might get better at it.
While using ethical standards that the West believes in. So when do you attack? Under what conditions do you attack? Do you attack if there's civilians? How many civilians? In what area?
I can guarantee the presenter and old Chris Kubasik are both sitting there really uncomfortable at the moment.
Yeah, what radius to schools? How do you make sure that the people we're hitting are our actual adversaries? How do you take out the dumb, but leave the intelligent generals alive?
How do you take out the dumb? He didn't know what to say. We've got to have that again because I want you to hear it uninterrupted.
Adversaries. How do you take out the dumb, but leave the intelligent generals alive that are kind of misaligned with their own country, and take out the idiots, or vice versa? These things are really important decisions. And then for Americans watching this, Americans want to know that their dollar spent is a dollar well spent, whether that's in the DoD or any other place. So commercial entities, commercial companies that are also patriotic, or in our case, patriotic first and commercial equally, are important also for the integrity of our country. Every single person is wondering, okay, of course I want the best war system in the world, and I want something our adversaries couldn't replicate. What did it cost? What were the margins? Did it work?
It's incredible the way you can effortlessly go from talking about costs and prices and stocks to the most lethal war technologies.
Is something that is commercially viable? Would a commercial entity ever buy this? Those are very legitimate and important questions for the integrity of our society, and our partnership goes along.
And as much as that is distasteful, these are important questions. You know, life is a fight for resources, from the individual to the family to the community to the town to the city to the nation to the continent. You know, this is what it's about, and it always has been.
A long way to answering them, because quite frankly, there are some rooms where I'm more welcome, mostly people who are investors in Palantir, or often, in many cases, on the battlefield. And there are some rooms where they would rather talk to Chris, and I'd rather have them talk to whoever they'd rather.
You're welcome around my house, Karpy. That's amazing. He said, or on the battlefield. Imagine you're down on the battlefield, old Karpy turns up. You'll be like, hang on.
Best product on the battlefield, and that often requires partnership.
What are the lessons learned, to the extent you can talk about them, about AI deployed on the battlefield? I think about the Middle East, where CENTCOM's using Maven. Palantir's involved in that program.
Wow. Well, anyone, maybe, if you want to hear what she said, just slow it down a bit.
It's now being deployed to other parts of the world as well. Just today, the White House issuing this national security memorandum on AI, talking about that, the fact that they need more AI deployed more quickly to the warfighter in military context, but that there need to be guardrails in place as well.
Incredible. Check out Karpy's face when she says warfighter. You look at it now. You can see that sort of closed mouth. It's very interesting.
More quickly to the warfighter in military context, but that...
And also, I'm going to take it back again. Note what he's doing. Karp is doing it with his hands. Any repetitive movement is self-soothing. We all do it. You know, we've all got a friend who, when you're sitting there talking to them, their knees going up and down, or maybe you do it yourself. Any repetitive movement is self-soothing. If you find yourself doing it in a social situation, ask yourself why. Why are you soothing yourself? You know, look at when we're babies, our mothers rock us. You know, they rock you side by side, you know. And that might just be because he's being interviewed, his business is at stake, but it's also that he knows, he talks about stuff very bluntly that doesn't usually have a place in this context.
Deployed more quickly to the warfighter in military context, but that there need to be guardrails in place as well.
When we took over Maven, it was, AI was viewed as a joke. We took it over because Silicon Valley notoriously thinks the job of Silicon Valley is to get rich first and to not support our warfighters. So we took that over, and then...
It's amazing. Silicon Valley wants to get rich first and then support our warfighters. Warfighters is a very strange choice of words. I sort of don't know what it means, but at the same time I do. I mean, well, That's very interesting. I'll tell you why I don't and I do, because it's being redefined. War, this very clip allows him to talk about this transition period without being very specific, because we don't quite know what that is.
What the DoD, and I'm very happy to see Jake Sullivan writing about, it's very important, has learned is the being able to identify and take out our adversaries in a way that's more precise, quicker, and more lethal than anyone else in the world can gives us a structural advantage. A structural A, because it's quicker and better and safer and more violent, and it's also
it's quicker, safer, more violent.
so better because our adversaries just are not that great at doing it. And so what the U.S. has learned in Project Maven, what the Ukrainians have learned, what the Israelis have learned is this is a structural way both to integrate the base. So also it makes companies that are already valuable 5 times more valuable, because you can control what you buy, you control the manufacturing, you can control right down to where you can use fewer munitions. The munitions can be lower cost, but they have to be produced quicker. You can explain to your people. So all these lessons, what they're basically seeing is Congress, the DoD, the White.
Wow, the war machine. It's it's a peculiar thing. Just flipping effortlessly between talking about stocks and prices and war fighters, the industrial military complex, people. Much like the rest of the world is going through an industrial revolution, so does war.
White House are saying, wait a minute, we have this amazing structural advantage and we need to take advantage of it. There's a banality that we forget.
Look at Palantir, look, year to date up 153%. If you bought Palantir stocks a year ago, and I advised my viewers, I didn't advise, I suggested that I might, because I'm not a professional financial advisor, but about 2.5 years ago I suggested Palantir. Never mind.
Everybody in the AI.
And thank you to all the scrubs who wrote to me and told me how much it changed their lives. People managed to buy houses and things, life-changing amounts of money from, 5 or 6 different subscribers. So thank you for letting me know. That was very kind of you. But you took the risks, you made the decisions.
World is American. And then almost everyone who's doing kind of munitions and targeting at scale with hardware and software is also American. And another advantage we have is we can just transform our industry because we have exceedingly agile CEOs and work environments, unlike Europe. And so what we're basically
putting a little dig into Europe, we've got amazingly flexible and agile CEOs. I don't think that's exactly what he said, but is he suggesting that all his lot do Pilates and yoga?
Basically seeing across the legislative and DoD is people saying, wait a minute.
I tell you, obviously, I do give a toss about Europe, and thank frig that the likes of Palantir are allies of ours.
We need to do a lot more of this. We need to see partnerships. We need to see people working together, and we need to bring this to our warfighter. And that's exactly what that memorandum basically says.
Speaking of agile work environments, you just talked about the fact that you have this next program. One of the things in this release, you're going to hit your cost-saving targets a year early.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need to say that. Sorry, Chrissy boy, but
Palantir, third best company, third best performer in the S&P 500, even though it's a new entrant. A lot of analysts don't necessarily fully.
And that's incredible. I mean, Palantir got into the S&P about 4 or 5 weeks ago, so they're in the top 500 companies in America, and they're already the third best performer. I mean, we've never seen anything like this in the stock market. It's a stock war machine in its own right.
Understand, I think, what you do on all aspects, but investors certainly seem to get it, particularly on the commercial side. I realize there's been a re-acceleration.
Look at Karp's face while she's talking, those pursed lips. I mean, they are almost sexual, and that's because he's absolutely smashing it. His fight for resources, he's winning. He's like one of the top people in the world in terms of fighting for resources at the moment. So why wouldn't he feel sexual in front of an attractive lady in a wet look, large-breasted kind of sorry.
In the U.S. government business, but the commercial business is
I mean, he's pouting at her.
Really what's propelling the stock. What are you seeing, especially as you do have these artificial intelligence platform boot camps and adoption levels?
Well, look, I mean,
that was an amazing check him, put his hands in his pockets and then take them out again for no reason. Repeated movement. It was only 2, but it's still comforting. Check it.
Platform boot camps and adoption levels.
Well, look, I mean, first of all, to your first, intelligent people learn from their mistakes and learn to realize when they made a mistake in the pattern. Everyone else becomes an analyst or an advisor. So, people have been saying we're overvalued for the last 20 years. People have been saying our products would make us profitable, that we would not be able to become a juggernaut, that we would not become GAAP profitable, we would not get on the S&P. And, keep saying that about us. We love it. It discourages people from doing anything like what we're doing, and we are winning. Now, why are we winning in U.S. commercial? Because we learned in the government that what makes AI valuable is the ability to manage algorithms or large language models.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's all very well talking about large language models. That's just a data set, people. It's loads of information. Now, that's fine, but how do you actually manage all that information? How do you manage the information of the global military-industrial complex? You can get all the data, but how do you manage it so that you can utilize it as a patriot in your favor to protect your nation, your soldiers, and your people? Well, that's what Palantir does.
Every financial analyst wakes up in the morning and with notable exceptions that we really revere, wakes up in the morning and after they stay at Motel 6, they have a huge opinion about how to manage large language models. It's completely theoretical and idiotic.
If I'm right, I think Motel 6 is a kind of a nasty American motel chain. I might be wrong, but
Motel 6 is an American chain of motels with locations in the United States and Canada. The chain was founded in Santa Barbara, California in 1962 by William W. Becker and Paul Green, and derives its name from the fact that rooms initially cost only $6.
He really just dug out a load of company CEOs there. They wake up in Motel 6. I'm trying to think of an English equivalent.
The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms play pinnacle on your snout.
Of truth, including America's a great country, which many of them don't like. Our allies deserve protection. Israel is in the right. Whatever is pissing them off, they're still buying the product. And the reason they're
Look at old Christopher Q. Bassett cracking up when he's pissing them off on CNBC. Look at the anchor. She's like, I bet in her ear it's going, shut him down, shut him down.
They're still buying the product. And the reason they're buying it is because our ontology and our AIP allow you to deploy and use AI in a way where it changes your margins, it changes your go-to-market, it changes your ability to kill or take out adversaries in a much safer way with much...
Again, I mean, it's a fair point, though. If you've got war is war. And if you've got to kill someone, you want to do that you don't want collateral damage. You don't want people using kids as human shields.
So I obviously agree with what Chris said. I think for me, the most important thing any administration can do is articulate a patriotic message. America and the way we organize things is something we are willing to fight for. And then once you've articulated we are going to fight for our way of life, a lot of decisions follow. And then
it's amazing. He just keeps going back to this.
The first thing is to say, and then I would start renaming things. It's like, I don't understand why we have a Department of Defense. We should have a Department of Offense.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not supporting war. I don't like war. I've been lucky enough to grew up in a world where the nearest I got to it was the Falklands, but it's a reality of the human condition.
And the other, I personally believe this with this, like we have to have red lines and then we should go ahead and violate them to show people how serious we are. Like, why do we wait till our enemies attack? It makes no sense. It does not lead to peace. You have this famous thing, it's a paradox of thrift, where if you oversave, you get poorer, which every progressive learns. It's tattooed on our bodies. There's a paradox of violence. If you never use violence, the world gets more violent. And so we need patriotism and competence and a willingness to use violence. And I don't know why we wait till people get up and hurt us, kidnap us. And last not least, as I've said over and over, if you touch an American citizen, we will go after you. We'll go after your assets. We'll go after everything. We'll can keep on going for generations. We cannot allow people to just kidnap and kill Americans wantonly and then say we're going to have a memorandum at the United Nations, essentially an academic institution that pushes papers for despots. So we really need to change our footing on this. And by the way, we're in a position to do it because our economy is the strongest in the world. We're the only people producing AI. We have the best CEOs in the world, and we have the best warfighters in the world.
Right.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, people. Let me know what you think about Karp. Let me know if you invested in Palantir when I suggested it might be a reasonable idea. And look after yourselves.
Sweet, sweet.